If you're thinking of getting the GoPro 7 Black to record your kitesurfing sessions, here are 10 things you need to know. The main selling feature of the GoPro 7 Black is the Hypersmooth stabilization. But is it really worth the price tag? We upgraded from the GoPro 4 to the GoPro 7, and the difference in footage is huge. Here's a selfie from the GoPro 7, and here's a selfie from the GoPro 4. So with the GoPro 4, really only a fraction of the footage is usable, whereas with the GoPro 7, almost 100% of the footage is usable because it removes most of the shake. In our opinion, the Hypersmooth stabilization makes the GoPro 7 the best GoPro yet. Another cool feature of the GoPro 7 is the time warp. This allows you to create a moving time lapse, which is stabilized by the Hypersmooth technology. They look pretty cool as you move through the environment, either by foot or by car. Unfortunately, time warps don't look so great while kiting though, especially because of the water droplets that accumulate on the lens. Pro tip is to use the 10x speed or greater for best results. Like all GoPros before it, with the GoPro 7, you're gonna have to watch out for those water droplets getting on your lens because they will ruin your shots. A good rule of thumb is that each time you press record, you wanna make sure your lens is crystal clear, otherwise you're gonna end up with shots that look like this. You can apply Rain-X to your lens before each session. However, when you do get water droplets on the screen, you're gonna have to orient the GoPro towards the wind or blow on it to make the water slide away. You can also lick the lens of your GoPro. We've heard a lot of people recommend that before. We tend to get mixed results with it. Usually what ends up happening is we dip the GoPro in the water a bunch of times until there's no drops left. We've also found that rubbing the GoPro lens on a wetsuit does the trick as well, just as good as saliva does. Keeping the water off the lens of your GoPro usually requires licking it multiple times, dunking it in the water multiple times, or rubbing it against your wetsuit. It's pretty much the same as all the GoPros before it. It's gonna take a little bit of time and effort to make sure you have no water droplets on your lens. Apparently there are companies though that sell screen protectors exactly for this reason. We haven't tried any of these products yet, but if you have, let us know how they work in the comments below. Another super important thing about the GoPro 7 that you'll want to do is enable the lock screen. We missed out on so many great shots when we were in Exuma because either water droplets or accidental contact with the screen caused us to change the settings or the camera mode, which meant that we just missed out on so many good shots. We thought we were recording videos while the GoPro was actually taking pictures and time lapses instead. Please trust us on this one. Make sure your lock screen is enabled. Our next tip is to get various GoPro mounts, or borrow them from your friends. Personally, I really like the GoPro line mount. However, it did give me a little bit of trouble because whenever I was doing rotations, the lines were actually getting stuck in the mount. I even had to pull safety once as the kite was uncontrollable after the lines got tangled around the GoPro mount, so watch out. Or perhaps just avoid rotations when using the mount if you're running into the same problem that I was. Somebody wanted it on the video, so welcome, Jewel. Another pro tip that we have is to make sure you set your GoPro to 1440p. This way in post-production, you can frame your shot just as you want. Right, Jewel? Another GoPro mount that I really enjoy using is the mouth mount. This gives you that really nice first-person perspective, and it also helps to minimize the shake even more. This is what our GoPro mount looks like. You'll want to get one that either has a floaty or a leash attached so that if you bail, you don't lose your GoPro. Here's an example of our old GoPro case that had the floaty on it, and as you can see, there's some nice teeth marks on the top of that. So yeah, I used to bite on this all the time, but I must say, once I switched over to this guy, it's so much more comfortable on your jaw, especially if you're filming for long periods of time. Also, this orange floaty piece doesn't really taste all that good. Right, Jewel? Do you want some orange floaty? No? Similarly, if you have a helmet, like this guy here, you can also attach a GoPro mount to the top of your helmet. It does look a little dorky, except on Jewel it just looks adorable. But it'll do the same. It'll get you that nice first-person view. The board mount is probably my least favorite mount because it really does nothing but provide a view of my butt. A floating selfie stick is another great option for the GoPro 7. It's really cool if you pass it to your friends while you're kiting, and you can also achieve a variety of different selfie shots at different angles. This option is great if you're mowing the lawn. However, once you start doing anything more complicated like tricks or jumps, it just tends to get in the way. In our opinion, if you're going to be doing tricks and jumps that you want to capture on your GoPro 7, the best option is either a mouth mount or a line mount. Finally, using the GoPro Dome can get you some amazing shots with your GoPro 7. It helps you to achieve that half above water and half underwater shots. However, it can be a little bit frustrating. The second that you get water droplets on this thing, your future shots are pretty much ruined. You can apply Rain-X on this though, and I find that's a bit easier because otherwise you're gonna run out of saliva trying to lick all the water droplets off this. Jewel, clean the dome. We don't want any water droplets on it. Get all those water droplets off, Jewel. Good girl. Thanks, Jewel. Thanks for your help. If you're using a line mount, we recommend that you use a smart remote. Otherwise, you're gonna be leaving your GoPro on for the entire duration of your session or until your kite comes down, or basically until your battery runs out. What you'll end up with is a huge file that's over an hour long that you have to sit through and edit, and this can be not only boring, but very time consuming. So we borrowed this remote from a friend because we honestly couldn't justify spending $80 US on a remote that we really don't use all that much. It does come in handy, particularly for the line mount and the dome. However, the downside of it is that it's just another thing you need to charge and remember to bring to the beach. Something that we've hinted to before is the battery life. So on the GoPro 7, we have found that if you're filming non-stop, usually your GoPro 7 will run for about an hour, if not a little longer. However, if you are filming bits and pieces through the day, your GoPro battery will probably last you the entire day. During our most recent trip, on our busiest day of filming, we used 1 1/4 batteries for our GoPro 7, and for this reason, we recommend that you get an extra battery just in case. You can find one on Amazon for about $20, or if you go for the aftermarket version, you can usually get 2 batteries plus a charger for $20 on Amazon. Now let's talk about audio. So the GoPro 7 audio is okay. We have found though that the GoPro 4 audio is actually a little bit better. However, this one is not waterproof without a case. GoPro 7 audio test, 1, 2, 3. GoPro 4 audio test, 1, 2, 3. If you want to improve the audio on the GoPro 7, you can get an external mic. However, you need this connector piece here, which just by itself is $50 USD. This vlogging setup here has the GoPro cage, microphone adapter, and a microphone, but honestly, we've yet to use it as it's just inconvenient to set up. And since you have to have the back door open, the camera is no longer waterproof, which kind of defeats the purpose for our use. Here's how the GoPro 7 sounds while you're kiting. All right guys, I'm doing an audio test of the GoPro 7. I'm trying not to scream at you, but talk loud enough that you can probably hear me. So you tell me, do you hear me okay? Pro tip, if you're vlogging while kiting, it is possible to remove background wind using Isotope RX6 D-Wind module. Here's an example. All right, coming back around here. Do I sound any better? Hopefully this works. Hopefully you can hear me well, but I don't really know at this point, so I'm just talking gibberish. Be careful when selecting the video settings on your GoPro 7. While GoPro 7 supports 120 frames per second, slow motion at 1080p, it only allows standard stabilization, leaving Hypersmooth disabled. For this reason, we shoot at 1080p 60 frames per second as we usually play videos at full speed. If your goal is to play 120 at quarter speed, then by all means use it as slowed playback rate inherently will smooth out the shakes. However, if you plan to play 120 frames per second at full speed, then the video will look less stable without the Hypersmooth, so consider using 1080p at 60 frames per second. You may ask, why not record at 4K 60 frames per second? And that's a valid question, but the answer is that at that frame setting, GoPro 7 will record using the new HEVC codec, which is a pain to edit. In fact, we made the mistake of recording a lot of our footage at 2.7K 1440p, which used HEVC codec, which is highly compressed. It refused to play in our editing software, and we were forced to use proxy files, which took us a lot of time. The point is, if you want to record at the highest quality settings available, make sure you have the proper computer hardware to edit with. When it comes to the field of view, we tend to use the wide setting almost 100% of the time. This is just personal preference that we prefer this over Super View, which is even wider frame of view, which gives you that ultra fisheye. We also leave Pro Tune off. Also watch out for the aspect ratio. On the GoPro 7, it's automatically set to 4:3, and you'll want to make sure that this is actually set to 16:9. The last thing that you should know about the GoPro 7 is that it is very buggy. Sometimes it would freeze and other times it just wouldn't turn off. Often it wouldn't connect with our phone, and sometimes it wouldn't let us even update the firmware. The menu system is intuitive, but it is a little bit slow to respond. Sometimes when you go to change a setting and you swipe up, you would expect it to toggle that option, but you actually have to click that option to engage it. It's little things like this that take away from the overall user experience. Apparently the latest firmware update fixes all these issues. Too bad whenever we try to update it, the GoPro app crashes. After an hour of trying, we were able to update the app manually to 1.61 firmware, which promised things like improved connectivity between the GoPro and the phone app. That being said, our GoPro still doesn't connect to our phone. Finally, one of the reasons we got the GoPro 7 is because of the built-in GPS. We wanted to have the speed tracker overlayered on top of our videos. While it looks cool and adds added information, it's kind of a pain to accomplish this as GoPro Quick software is needed, and this is incredibly slow and buggy. That being said, it does work on our Intel i7 system much better than our AMD system. So you may be wondering, is the GoPro 7 worth buying? First, you'll want to consider how much you'll actually use it. We have a lot of friends that either have a GoPro and never use it, or they use it all the time, but they never do anything with the footage. If you're already making videos or taking photos, then the GoPro 7 will definitely add some very cool shots. If, on the other hand, you've never used a GoPro before, you probably don't want to buy the most expensive GoPro model there is. In fact, we recommend skipping it and getting something cheap to start, like this guy here, which is about $50 on Amazon. Obviously, there will be some more shake, but if you use something like a mouth mount, you can definitely get some decent footage out of it. If you're using an older GoPro version like we were with the GoPro 4 and you're using it frequently, then upgrading to the GoPro 7 makes perfect sense. The Hypersmooth stabilization is a total game changer. This new feature makes so much more of your footage usable. And if you're a one-person show, meaning that you're filming and starring in your own footage, then it's really all you need. If you have any questions about the GoPro 7 that we've missed, or if you already have a GoPro 7 and feel that we've missed something, let us know in the comments below. We hope that you have found this video helpful. We want to thank you so much for watching and make sure to remind you to subscribe for more videos like this coming soon, and we'll see you next time. Bye!